I'm rolling up my sleeves for this. All right, so this is BA's Best Lasagna. This is our deep dive into the world of more of a traditional lasagna, which has a ragu bolognese as your kind of meat sauce in there, as well as bechamel and noodles. Now, today, we're not making our own noodles. Honestly, I found that store-bought noodles perform, perfectly adequately. We're using the Checo lasagna sheets, which are kind of like a nice sort of, a little bit like of a wider, kind of rectangle that works like really well. And we're just gonna jump right into it because we gotta jam here. There's a lot to get through. The first thing and the underpinning of this lasagna, and for me, most lasagnas, is the sauce. It is a ragu bolognese, so this one is a mixture of beef and pork. Andy and I have had a lot of back and forths about, bolognese. There's infinite variations, but all of them involve some kind of combination of meats long cooked in very often tomato, but not necessarily always, some kind of tomato product, and stock and some kind of dairy product, whether it's milk or cream. So I'm just gonna get right into it. I'm gonna talk you through it as we go. So it's a little unorthodox. Just gonna get that right out of the way. I'm seasoning this liberally with salt. I'm gonna combine these meats. I'm not really worried about making it super even. That's not what this is about. I'm gonna brown the meat in ball form. The reason being that in ball form, I can brown all of this meat in 2 batches very, very, very easily and actually develop great color on the outside of the meat without overcooking the majority of it.
Par with the 225 and the Dental.
Oh. I feel like this is a little out of character, but I feel like I'm thinking like cop, I think we would be in like a cool like Dodge Challenger, like black, like understated, I didn't hear the sizzle. I'm not gonna sit here and start making bad decisions. All right. There. If the meat's not browning, what's the point? What was it that John Oliver said the other night? The reason why we can brown this meat so much more efficiently in ball form is obviously it's a question of, the contact area of the portion of meat that's actually in contact with the surface, right? And there's nice gaps in between the balls, right? So all of the steam can kind of come out of the pan. We're not trying to cook the meat through in its entirety. It's gonna cook through in the braising process. We just want the benefit of all the flavor development that happens when it picks up color here, okay? I'm gonna wash my hands, don't go anywhere. Like that's like, about the minimum I'm looking for, all right? That there, that's ideal. Don't try to force it along. You don't want to scorch all of the beautiful fond that you're creating in the bottom of this pan. All those brown bits, that is where the flavor is, okay? Don't want this to be crazy hot when the pancetta goes in, but it's probably about good. It's gonna get it, lightly browned, a little crispy, render out the fat. The power of a cured pork product to impart massive amounts of flavor to something, that's just about where we need it to be. It's gonna continue to cook a little bit along with our onion. Carrot, I'm not a big believer in carrot, in any kind of pasta sauce in general, but in bolognese, it just belongs. It's like the celery. It just gives a very well-rounded base of vegetable aromatics. Crank up the heat a little bit. At this point, I'm gonna also season this with a little extra salt. Salt is gonna help draw moisture from these vegetables, help them cook out a little bit more quickly. And we're building kind of successive waves of flavor. I'm not gonna lie, this is a recipe with a lot of steps. The sauce, just as its own thing, it's incredibly manageable. The sauce will freeze for months in the freezer. There is an alchemy to the way pasta behaves when cooked with a layer of bechamel on it. There is a creaminess that you get from bechamel in a lasagna that cannot simply be replicated by adding cheese or anything else, okay? You can see vegetables, color is intensifying, they're softening. My dad would make, a version of this sauce out of the Marcella Hazan, I think it's Essentials of Italian Cooking. And you would get that smell. My room in high school was like all the way up in the 3rd floor of our house in the attic. And, by about like hour number 2, the smell would have wafted its way all the way up to my room, where I was like locked in there, hanging out with Andy, painting our nails black, listening to The Cure, drawing pentagrams on shit, all right? And it was like magic. So this is Muti brand double concentrated tomato paste in the tube. Do we have the tube of tomato paste over there?
Oh my God.
Spoon down. All right, so this is, sorry, I got off topic. Muti brand double concentrated tomato paste in the tube. I'm not really looking for browning on these vegetables. I just want them to be very, very soft. You don't want to put all this liquid in and then put the tomato paste in after, right? The tomato paste, it's imperative it goes on top of the aromatic so that it can cook out. At the point that the wine goes in, this is never really going to be above the temperature of a simmer, right? The oil that's in there now is frying the paste out at a higher temperature than it could ever reach in the presence of water. Might sound complicated, just bear with me, it makes sense. So, the wine on its own, this is going to add acidity to the sauce, and we want the wine to cook out on its own so that the alcohol can be driven off, concentrated flavor. Then, so what I like to do is I'll hold these back, add some of this liquid in so that can start concentrating while I work on breaking up these tomatoes. Yeah, make sure you have a very clean cut if you can, No jagged edges. So this has got to cook down. It's going to be about 8 to 10 minutes, okay? I'm going to push it along at a good clip. All right, see how the tomato, it's almost at the point where it's kind of frying as much as it's simmering. Does that make sense? Okay, so it's at the point where it's almost like the fat that's in here is almost separating out from the liquid. And then just hit it with a little bit of salt here. So this is tasting pretty bright, but obviously it's going to go into the oven with all that meat and it's going to balance right out. Low sodium chicken broth and a cup of whole milk. Meatballs going in with all that liquid. All right, so I just want it to return to a good simmer before I put it in the oven. If I were doing this just for a bolognese, I probably would not have put so much tomato in there, but there's something about lasagna that I feel like you want a little bit more of a tomato-forward sauce. Cover is going on slightly ajar and into a 225-degree oven. Next step, bechamel. Sounds complicated. It's not. So roux plus milk, bechamel. All right, so I've got 6 tablespoons of butter here. Once the butter is all completely melted, then you can put your 7 tablespoons of all-purpose flour in. There is incredible flavor development that happens when you toast flour. It's incredible. Another minute. In the meantime, I've got water coming up for our lasagna sheets. Milk's going in. Just whisk very vigorously as the milk goes in. Try not to make a massive mess as I have. All right, so I'm gonna crank that up. The reason being that there's no danger of boiling the milk here, right? So the starch needs to come to a boil to fully activate, to fully thicken this sauce. So the sooner we can get there, the better. So, boiling salted water. You can use a little more salt in there. Boom, okay? I'm adding the pasta sheets one by one. Okay, the reason being I want to kind of be stirring and agitating as they go in so that they don't stick together. That's the tricky thing with lasagna noodles. They really, I'm nervous. I'm gonna cook these in 2 batches. We could have used like maybe a slightly bigger pot or something, but I think it's just like, it's asking for trouble.
You were tempted to not include bechamel, right?
No.
Who was it?
Brad!
Brad doesn't believe in the bechamel. Yes.
The guy made manicotti without bechamel. Okay, so see how this is very flexible, but ultimately when I bend it, it kind of like has a tendency to want to kind of almost snap. That's great. That's exactly what we want. That was 3 minutes. Uh-oh, man down. Ah, 2 of them stuck together, but honestly, if a couple stick together, that's no big deal. Just move on with the rest. So I'm gonna lay out these sheets of pasta in between pieces of parchment. You could use wax paper. Basically, you don't want to keep them in the water for too long because they will continue to absorb it. You don't want to stack them on top of each other because they'll start to stick to each other. All right, so I'm going to turn this down. Water is back. Gonna let that go about 10 minutes, whisking occasionally. Second round of pasta going in. All right, so bechamel has been cooking 10 minutes plus, I'd say. It's sort of thickened, it's concentrated. I need to get the Parmesan in there.
I'm gonna take you straight to one, dude.
Nutmeg with bechamel is just kind of traditional. Cayenne just gives a little bit of lift. Not so much that it's spicy, it just has a tendency to wake foods up. So sauce has been rolling. Very slow, lazy bubbles. This is not an active boil situation. See how that meat, it goes from ball to not at all, you know? And this is just breaking it up, mashing it lightly is gonna integrate, you know, the solid and liquid elements of this sauce and bring it in together. Wow. Just a little layer of oil, just so we don't get any stickage in here. The order is. I immediately thought, the order is engage Caterpillar Drive. No, sorry, I just immediately went to Hunt for Red October on you. This is a little bit of like a, I'd rather have like, you know, 5 layers of everything than, you know, that are kind of like each a little bit thin than like 3 massive layers, you know. I'll do the right thing and trim just a little strip from the next one. I just find that the DiCecco is good like that, you know? You can just easily cut strips. It's a little bit wider, it's a little bit more forgiving in the assembly process. The next time maybe I'll go this way, you know? I like to vary it up. That way, you know, each piece has like an architecture of kind of interlocking and overlapping, you know, kind of pieces of pasta. And then here's where the magic happens. Then we repeat with RAGÚ. So then I'm going to change the direction of the pasta, okay? Cool. Cool. We're gonna throw this in the oven at 425, just a crisp top up. All right, and take this baby home. That's gonna be 10 to 15, all right? Nice. All right, so that's it. We're good.
I also read that it needs to sit for 10 minutes before serving.
You don't want to serve this ripping hot because, frankly, you want to give it a sec to have all the kind of liquid and everything rebalance in there so you can get a nice clean slice out of it. All right. I've got one slice taken out. Here, I'm going to do a couple more just so they can start to cool down a little bit.
Happy because I'm a corner piece type of guy.
Oh, I mean, I don't know who isn't a corner piece kind of individual. Boom.
No. That's
And it holds together.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember eating lasagna growing up, and I would just, the smell was so intense, I'd want to eat it right away, and I would always burn, like,
Oh,
down
yeah,
here.
scorch.
Always. I just love how rich and velvety and creamy it is, the whole thing.
Honestly, I just want to point out, like, there's something that the bechamel allows that pasta to do where it's exposed. The way they buckle up and get crispy and turn into, like, a cracker. Maybe just a pinch of salt. You're good?
I didn't say that. Yeah, a pinch of salt.
Okay,
But
maybe just a pinch of salt. We were both thinking it, but it's cool. And you're being polite. It's fine. It's fine. We're partners. Bad boys for life.
bad boys for life.
We ride together, we die together.
Yeah, buddy.